Welcome back to Brands Hatch, the last race of the 2012 Pickup Truck Championship season, and the cars on their rolling lap, led by Charlie Weaver on pole, Paul Jones alongside with Dave Briggs and Anthony Hawkins row 2, Mike Smith with championship leader Steve Dance on his outside, then it's David O'Regan and Pete Stevens, Nick Grindrod has got a lot to do from row 5, Cole Boardley next to him, then Lee Rogers and Phil White, Dave Longhurst and James Goldstraw row 7, they're followed by Danny Brosnan and Paul Tompkins, Tony Mumford and Paul Poulter on row 9. Dan Parker completing the grid. Paul Tompkins now out of the running for the championship, so he will be looking to gain another race finish and secure third. An incredible result in only his second season of pickup truck racing. Now conditions slightly drier. The rain has abated since this morning's race, so it's still very difficult out there. And Charlie Weaver's got a big job on his hands, and he starts on pole, but Paul Jones, this year's rookie champion, on his outside. The race is underway. Anthony Hawkins up to third, Dave Briggs in fourth, but Charlie Weaver leads as they go down into Paddock Hill Bend. Good first corner from Weaver, on board with David O'Regan. Steve Dance up ahead of him. Nick Grindrod, of course, wants to get not only on the tail of Dance, but up into the front. But it's Charlie Weaver leading this one as they go around Druids for the first time. Everybody through safe and well. There's Dave Longhurst in 23. Oh, Weaver gets a wheel on the curbs on the outside. That's a nasty hit. The screen's out, and the truck, well, luckily doesn't bounce back into the path of the oncoming field, and it was the entire field. Through go Tony Mumford and Dan Parker down towards the back of the field. Now Charlie Weaver, a great start from him. Negotiated Paddock superbly to take the lead. He got a wheel on the curb as they came out of Druids, and that sent him around. That could happen to anyone. Now the question for me is, are we going to get a safety car? There's Phil White in 63. Denham Car Centre truck now side by side. But Steve Dance is through past PR Jones to take the lead. So Paul Jones down to second. And Steve Dance leads this one. Anthony Hawkins in white, 98, looking down the inside of Dave Briggs to try and get sixth place. He's a little bit far back. David O'Regan still running well. There's Anthony Hawkins up in front, and confirmation that we will get the safety car. So Steve Dance out front, that's going to be good for him. Nick Grindrod, look at that, already up into third place. Truck's all going through, so Charlie Weaver's truck will be taken off circuit. Field all enjoying themselves. There is number 12, Paul Tompkins, with a huge amount of work to do after a disappointing qualifying for him. You heard him say that. If he'd have been up in the top 10, might have had the chance to have had the reverse grid front row maybe, but that's why an 11th or 12th could be so agonising in pickup truck qualifying. Hello, where's Pete Stevens going? Off onto the grass. He retired in race number 1. I just wonder if he's got a problem in this one. Comes back on. Tony Mumford in the black and yellow truck towards the back. There's Lee Rogers in 69. Qualified outside the top 10 in this one. Just a reminder of the way the grids work in pickup truck racing. If you secure the fastest qualifying time in session, then you start 10th on the grid, and the man who qualifies 10th starts on pole. And you might think that's unfair, but you get extra points for qualifying, so it's 20 points available for taking the pole position, as it were. Pace car driven, as always in pickup truck racing, by former race driver Stuart Bradburn. He's probably had more laps leading pickup truck races than anybody else. And are you going to give me a mention, he always says. Well, he's had it in this programme. Steve Dance leading then as we get ready for the restart. Paul Jones second. Then Nick Grindrod, Cole Boardley. I was going to say any one of the top 4, but realistically, half the field capable of taking a win from the positions they're in at the moment. Let's hope we don't get a DNF for any of our championship runners. We go green, and we're racing again here at Brands Hatch for the last time for the pickups. Down to Paddock Hill Bend. Keep your eyes on the yellow and red truck of Nick Grindrod, who needs to get into the lead. It's the outside line of Paul Jones, and the outside at Paddock is unconventional. That's the hardest we've seen Nick work today. You can see him working at the wheel. He knows how the truck handles, and he's up into second place. Boardley's third. Cole Boardley follows him. Great move from the man who qualified fastest in the second session today. Started 10th, so he's come through. Brilliant first few laps from Cole Boardley. But Nick Grindrod is now up. Well, he's not quite challenging for the lead because he's got Boardley behind him. Dave Briggs has got through past Paul Jones, David O'Regan. A little bit of inadvertent contact there from Anthony Hawkins in 98, who goes through. The JK mechanical truck goes through on the inside. So 98 now up and challenging Paul Jones in 82. Remember, Jonesy in his first season, still learning the trucks, but running well. He's had a great season. Rookie Championship honours, of course, for him will no doubt entice him to come back next year. But we're on board with the youngster from Ireland, who could well be a championship contender next year. David O'Regan, the red stripe truck, going around the outside of Paul Jones. He's got Michael Smith, O'Regan's teammate, coming down the inside as well. So through they go, and it's still Steve Dance out front. Nick Grandjean, and off goes Dave Briggs into the gravel as Grandjean muscles his way through into the lead. Nick Grandjean leads. Steve Dance down to second. Carl Boardley's third. Now, if Dance has really got to defend now, he's got a race on his hands, because if Carl Boardley takes second place, the championship will be Grandjean's. Nick's done everything he can so far. We're on board with Michael Smith. Michael in 93, the second of the trucks just gone out of shot. There's Paul Porter in 74, followed by 63, Phil White, 72, James Goldstraw, up amongst some of the faster drivers as well. He's gaining more experience too, is James, so keep an eye on him next season. 63, Phil White up the inside line. Paul Jones is now down behind them. Coming round the outside, I think that's Dave Longhurst in 23 trying to work his way through the field. Longhurst on the outside line. Dave loves the outside, of course, learnt the craft of overtaking on the outside in short circuit racing in hot rods, and the great thing about the pickups is that they really pay very little attention to racing lines a lot of the time. When the formula was introduced, lots of oval drivers coming onto the circuits, there are a few stewards who said, well, that's not the racing line. Well, if it gets the job done, then all fair and good. That's what most of these boys do. So Longhurst now past number 12. The number 12 truck of Paul Tompkins, who's fighting his way through the field as well. James Goldstraw up ahead of them. So Tompkins and Longhurst both, again, drivers with world championships on the short ovals under their belt, and Tompkins was looking up the inside there. And now Carl Boardley's gone into second place. Boardley second. Steve Dance is down to third. The championship, is it slipping away from the Reading driver? A fifth title. He's got 70 kg ballast on the truck, and Carl Boardley now, well, this has changed things now, because if Boardley goes for the lead and takes it, that will mean there are no trucks between Dance and Grindrod, and therefore the championship will go back to Steve Dance. So Steve Dance is probably going to be urging on Carl Boardley, who gets wobbly down the bottom of Halewoods. He's putting pressure on Nick Grindrod up front. Now remember, Boardley was fastest in the second qualifying session. David O'Regan squeezes past 98, Anthony Hawkins, takes him wide. Hawkins gets a little bit of a tech slapper on as they come out of Druids, down into Graham Hill Bend, but it's still the 22 truck of Nick Grindrod who's there. Look how tidy Nick is. Keeps the truck well away from the curbs. Normally the Brands Hatch owners will be reading the riot act and saying you can't go over the curbs, you can't touch the grass because it gets all messy, the driver's in the wet conditions. No, that's the case. And Nick Grindrod precision driving there from him, keeping it exactly on the tarmac, not using the curbs, and I fancy that Steve Dance might now be taking the challenge back to Carl Boardley. Boardley in second, Dance third. Well, he's dropped back a little bit as they come through Clark Curve onto the Brabham Straight. David O'Regan still there in fourth. Fifth place is Anthony Hawkins. Anthony, another ex-short oval driver. Nick Grindrod started on the ovals, then, as we said, moved into the Westfield Sports Car Championship and gained a bit of race experience in there. Carl Boardley did some ASCAR races on the mile-and-a-half oval at Rockingham before joining the pickups. As I say, prior to that, racing in the National Hot Rods. Again, similar style of machine, space frame races, the National Hot Rods, but racing in the tight confines of a quarter-mile oval. So Steve Dance, third place at the moment, and if they put the red flag and checkered flag out now, Steve Dance is going to be second in the championship, and Nick Grindrod will take a third title. Steve Dance doing all that he can to try and hunt him down. 2005, 2006 champion, Rockingham Oval champion many times. He's on the record books equal with Gavin Seeger. We will be on this one with 53 wins, but had a 7-race uninterrupted sequence of wins. Carl Boardley still second, back marker traffic looming, so the front runners will have to start dealing with that. It's Dan Parker in number 30 who's going to be the first one that they happen across. And now Carl Boardley challenging for the lead. So Boardley, this could mess the championship up for Nick Grandron, who gets into contact with Carl Boardley. I'm sure that was inadvertent for Carl, but there was a little bit of paint trading there as they went through, and Boardley, that hasn't done him any favours. And now Steve Dance is back on his case. Now keep the eye on the line here. Dance is keeping it tight, looks up the inside line of Carl Boardley, but Boardley's still got the advantage. Nick Grandron out front. Boardley gets a better exit though from Clark Curve and onto the Brabham Straight, and he's back up challenging for the lead again. Remember, if Boardley takes the win, then it's going to be Steve Dance's championship, as long as Nick Grandron is only one place in front. Back down the order, Dave Briggs out of the gravel earlier on, that was a masterly recovery from him, and Paul Jones in 82 looking up the inside, very squirrely in 82, good truck control from him, keeping it on the tarmac. Back with the battle for the lead, and now David O'Regan's coming up as well. O'Regan's hungry for his first circuit race win. He won at Rockingham earlier this season, and he's proved that he's got the ability to move from the ovals onto the circuits, and he's challenging the 4 times champion Steve Dance for 3rd place, and Steve Dance could do without that, to be honest with it. He could just wants to get on with the job of challenging. Dance has got maximum ballast at 70 kg. As you saw from the onboard shot there, David O'Regan with no ballast, that means he hasn't finished on the podium in the last 6 or 7 races, and he is absolutely flying here. End of the championship looms. Grandron leads. Can he hold on? Join us after the break.